Oh, there she is. Hi, with your red
Hello.
lipstick.
Of course.
Okay, so a few people are here, so we can start right away. Sorry, I'm just gonna get this situated on my laptop over here.
No problem.
Okay, nice and cozy in my bed.
Me too. Me too.
Okay, so welcome. I found you at one of the first Instagram accounts. I feel like we've been in touch for a while already.
Yeah.
So it's nice to actually meet you in person. And is it Tzipora or Tzippy?
Tzipora.
Okay, so I guess I kind of made up that your name is Tippy in my head. Also, sometimes
Okay.
sometimes I call you Toby in my head because your
Uh,
name is Free Toby, but
yeah.
Toby, whatever. Anyway,
It's
that's
okay.
just a personal snippet. Okay, so let's talk about, I don't know, introduce yourself, and we'll kind of get into like what we're talking about, why we're here.
Perfect. Okay. So, hello world. I'm like super nervous, so excuse me. My name is Tzipora. My handle is free2b and I'm really excited to be here tonight. I have so many things that I can be talking about. I have lots of mental health experience, not as a professional, but as a warrior, I guess. So, yeah, I'm really excited to be here tonight. I'm very passionate about what we're going to be talking about. And so I don't know if I should just like go right into it, or Shoshana, you want to prompt me?
Um, you could go right into it.
I don't know. I don't want to
Okay,
scare people
so
off.
no, okay, well, I don't know. I'm not so great at giving introductions. I don't like to mess these things up. But no, I'd rather you.
Just go.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'll
No
I'll
problem.
interrupt you or ask questions. And also for those people who are watching, if you can ask questions as we go along, is that okay?
Absolutely, please.
Okay, to ask questions as we go along, and we always come back to the questions.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. So we're just doing this. Okay.
yeah.
And love addiction. Um, so where do we begin? So I guess it starts really with my journey in therapy, because that's really how I got knowledgeable about what codependency is and how I sort of discovered that I identify as a love addict. So funny story how I got into therapy,
Well,
because therapy was always this,
before
oh,
you before you say that, do you want to explain what is codependency and what is love addiction? Or are you gonna get
sure.
there?
I'm going to get there, because I didn't know what these terms
Okay.
meant before I was in
Okay.
therapy.
Okay.
Like, these were like super esoteric words. I don't think I've ever heard the word codependent
Yeah.
before I got into therapy, which was, I don't know, I want to say 6 years ago. So I was, 20, how old am I? I was, 6 or 7 years ago. I was 23, 24. Um, got into therapy because I had a car accident, and it was like my excuse to go to therapy because I thought I had PTSD. Thank God I was really fine, but like that was my segue, because therapy was such a taboo thing. And I didn't have any issues, so I didn't need therapy. But okay, so I had this car accident. I think we spent maybe like 5 minutes talking about the car accident before we got into the real good stuff. And so pretty quickly, I would say within like the first or second therapy session, I learned about this term codependent. And what my therapist explained to me was what I essentially call like I was a chameleon. I just morphed myself into whoever the other person wanted me to be, whether it was, the person that my family wanted me to be, the person that my friends wanted me to be, my teachers, whoever it was. And so it came with a lot of people pleasing. With my family, I was one person. And with my friends and with different friends, I was different people. So I really had no identity for myself. I was just whoever I thought everyone else wanted me to be. And so it led to a lot of, I don't know, confusion, a lot of hurt and disappointment, because I felt like people took advantage of me because I was always the nice person. I was always the yes girl. And I was just the punching bag for everyone and anyone, whether they realized it or not. I just became that person that people could just take advantage of. And that sort of became like my motto in life. Like I was the victim of every single person I came into contact with, whether it was a mean comment, whether it was some sort of manipulation that I didn't even realize was happening. I just had no sense of self. And I am a young woman in my low 20s at the time. I've been dating for a couple of years, watching so many of my friends get engaged and married and have children. And I'm just like flailing along, having no idea what I'm doing with my life and what is wrong with me. And I knew that there was something wrong with me. I didn't know what it was. So I started reading a little bit about codependency. I was like, oh my gosh, this is me. Like, this is me. I am people pleaser to the max. I have no sense of identity. I'm in law school. I'm supposed to be this adult figuring out life. And I had no idea. And the way that it played out with dating in particular was attracting and being attracted to men who did the same thing. They saw me as the person that could be taken advantage of. And so whether it was guys who would be dating me and multiple other girls at the same time, or would speak to me disrespectfully, and then I would realize like, hey, that's not okay. But then I would end up going back to the same guys anyway because I didn't know anything better. It resulted in this really deep-seated belief that I didn't deserve any better. And I'm pretty sure that developed in childhood and whatever. I'm not a mental health professional, so I'm not going to get into that psychology, but I discovered that I really just had no sense of self. I didn't love myself. I didn't respect myself. I didn't think I was worthy of anything, quite honestly. And so I was just operating out of desperation at this point. I didn't deserve much, but I was desperate to get whatever it was that I could get. And so, again, in my dating / casual relationships with men, I was continuously attracting men who were not healthy for me, men who brought out this really vulnerable person who just, it just fed into that continued idea that like I am not worthy, and so I have to put up with this behavior. And I sort of want to tangent for just a second. I think that also being from religious plays into codependency because a lot of us do start dating at a very young age, and there's such a focus on like getting married at a young age that it sort of feeds into this notion that like overlook the red flags if you even know what they are, and just lock it down, get married, do what you gotta do. Being an older single is not a stigma you want on your back. So I think it was a combination of both being a codependent and being a member of the religious Jewish community that really had me just ignoring or not even being able to identify the signs of unhealthy relationships. So I'm continuing along this pattern of meeting and dating unhealthy men, and I'm miserable. I'm absolutely miserable. I'm in therapy every week. I'm paying her, and nothing's happening, nothing's changing, and it's everyone else's fault because I'm so great, I'm so wonderful, it's everyone else's fault. But my therapist, I love her, she really helped me see that, like, what's the common denominator here, Tzipora? Like, you're the common denominator in all of these relationships. So maybe let's look at what's going on within you to see if maybe we can do some work there and stop blaming all the guys. What? Stop blaming the guys? No way. No way. There's nothing wrong with me. There's nothing wrong with me. So that was my motto for a very long time. Finally, I got to a point where, in addiction, there's this term of rock bottom, where you've really just like destroyed life to such a degree that you can't do anything else but to get help for yourself. So thank God I never really had that rock bottom experience, but I did have a I'm sick and tired of this experience. And so if my therapist is encouraging me to look inward and figure out what's going on within me, then I got to listen to her and do some work. So once I became open to that, my therapist was able to sneak in this term of love addiction. And I was like, woman, you are crazy. First of all, I'm not an addict. Second of all,
hold on
there's
a second.
Oh.
Could you move your face down a little bit?
Me?
Yeah, there.
Better?
Okay. Yeah, second of all.
Okay. Okay, so, hold on. There we go. Okay. Now you can see me. Second of all, what was the first? Oh, second of all, there's no such thing as love addiction. That's a made up thing, right? So many people, I mean, till this day, so many people were like, is that really a thing? Or is that like recovery people just trying to make up a new addiction just to like explain their problems? Okay, so it's a thing, right? So the concept of addiction is when you do something compulsively and you're unable to stop that compulsive behavior through your own will. So many people are familiar with alcoholism, drug addiction. Those are substance addictions that are more tangible to see and relate to. The people addictions, the behavioral addictions are a little bit more abstract and they're not as easily identifiable. So many people are like, this thing doesn't exist and this is just how people operate. Like, you don't have an addiction. This is just how people operate. So here's a myth buster. Love addiction does exist. I identify as a love addict. And trust me, there's nothing more in the world that I would want than to not be an addict. So for me to come here and say I'm an addict, I'm not just saying that flippantly, okay? So love addiction is codependency on crack, basically. It's being unable to break those habits to a destructive extent. And codependency is plenty destructive on its own, personally, but when it starts affecting people other than yourself and you lose relationships or you're unable to create healthy relationships, it's a very sad and lonely life. And
we lost your face again a little bit.
Why?
I don't know. Sometimes that happens with the... I don't know.
Okay. How about now?
There, yeah.
Okay.
Just keep flipping down. I hate to keep interrupting you for that.
No, it's fine. It's fine. It's good to like break the rant. Sometimes I just rant here. Okay. So what do I want to say next about love addiction? I guess let me just jump to my recovery. So my recovery date from love addiction is January 2nd of 2016. So I've been in recovery for more than 3.5 years, which is like crazy to think about. And it took me a long time to get there. When I first learned about the concept of love addiction, it took me another year before I actually went to a meeting. And what I have found in recovery is life. I'm going to try not to cry, but really recovery has changed my life. It has given me life. It has given me identity. It has given me purpose. And it has allowed me to help other people. So many of the things that I do to help other singles in the Jewish Orthodox community is utilizing my recovery tools. Like, that's just the truth of the matter. We are so fortunate to have so many available tools to us. We just need to know about them. And I'm really, really grateful to my therapist for bringing recovery into my awareness, for my willingness to admit that I am an addict and that I need help and that I cannot navigate relationships without my recovery program. I can't. I wish I could, but I can't. And every time I try to like, oh, I'm okay, I'm over this, I'm recovered, I love when people say that. I'm a recovered addict. I'm like, really? There's no such thing. You don't recover. You're in recovery because every day is a challenge. Every day is a fight to be sober. And again, just like every day that an alcoholic doesn't drink alcohol is a sober day for them. Every day that I make healthy choices in the way that I interact with people, particularly men, I am sober in my recovery. So that's like the really, really short version of my entire story. I want to pause right now to see if there were any questions, or Shoshana, you have any questions to sort of like prompt me along the way. So I'm going to breathe.
Yeah. Oh, there. Now it's your eyes. Wait, move up. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to scroll up for a second. Questions. Okay, I don't see any questions.
Okay.
I kind of like the way that you're going. You're speaking very organized, like in a very good trajectory. So if you had things planned, then like keep going.
Okay, so I guess I want to talk a little bit about what like recovery looks like for love addicts and codependents. So
wait, before you jump into it, maybe you could like get a stand or something, because I don't want to keep interrupting you to move it up. Oh, no, that way.
This way?
No, that way. Yeah.
That way.
Yeah.
Is this good?
That's good, but then it keeps
flipping.
It
looks, so it's so weird because this looks like I have tons of space on top of me and that my body is not in it. But if you guys could see me this way,
no,
I'm happy.
Your face is right in the square like this, so.
Perfect. So
yeah,
you can all enjoy my double chin.
I think if you put your tongue to the roof of your mouth.
Nice good trick. Okay, we got this.
Yeah, try talking like that, but whatever. I can do it.
I cannot. Well, next time.
I just get to stare at you. That's the fun of my role.
That's the fun part of this, right? Okay, so a little bit about what recovery looks like in the rooms. So in the rooms is one of those like recovery terms that we use talking about when you're in a meeting. So again, I hate doing this, but I think it helps people to contextualize when I compare like AA or which is Alcoholics Anonymous, or alcoholism, drug addiction. Every addiction is its own kind of hell. So I'm not comparing, I'm not contrasting, I'm not saying one is better or worse, but I think just for the purposes of like helping people understand when I talk about addiction, not in a substance, but in a behavioral aspect. Okay, so love addiction. Okay, that's what I want to say. So the particular 12-step program of recovery that I am a member of is called, brace yourselves, people, sex and love addiction. Okay, and people hear sex and they're like, oh my gosh, from girl talking about such things. Okay, so here's another myth buster for all of you. First of all, thank you to Project Proactive for having Benny Schoen on here to talk about porn addiction.
He was really good.
He was amazing. And porn addiction is a type of sex addiction, and there are many other types, and it doesn't just it doesn't just manifest itself in actual intercourse. So, you know, I'm a single woman. I don't want to freak anyone out by using the term sex, but there is a lot of overlap. A lot of love addicts are also sex addicts because part of the way that they people please is through sex. It just is what it is. So there's that. The reason why I chose this particular 12-step program versus like a CODA, which is Codependence Anonymous, is I just felt like it was a lot more well-rounded, and it tapped into so many different aspects of my addiction. Part of my addiction I identify as an intrigue addict or a fantasy addict. When I'm like living up in my head, daydreaming about my Prince Charming, playing out a scene from a date when I had a really good time, thinking about, oh, the next time I see him, and next thing I know, I've wasted 2 hours at work having done no work. So that's a problem. So SLAA or SLA, or Sex and Love Addicts Anonymous, addresses all of those different aspects of addiction and how people, how it manifests in different people, men and women. Okay, so there are meetings for us folk. Meetings, not just in-person meetings, because that's terrifying. They have phone meetings. They have online meetings. They have, we are so lucky to be in this day and age where we're so advanced. You could be super, super anonymous. You know how many times I call into a phone meeting and I hear people who identify as curtain or broom or, window or, some like crazy name. And none of those names have ever.
Curtain sounds like a name.
But just for anonymity's sake, none of those names have actually showed up on my meetings. But the point is that you can be whoever you want to be on these meetings. You can really be super, super anonymous. And I always get so excited when I hear like a Jewish sounding name on the meeting. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you're one of my people. Like, let's talk after the meeting. So that I think is really important for people to know, because a lot of times there's so much shame involved in addiction. Not a lot of times, all the time. There's so much shame involved in addiction that getting help is not so simple. And to know that there are avenues where you can seek help in a very anonymous way, especially around these super sensitive topics, I think is really important. When I found out about the phone meetings, I was like through the roof. Like that was like, yes, please pick me. I'm there. And my home group, which is like the main meeting that I go to, is on the phone. Like that, I have a home group over the phone. And I've actually had the honor of meeting some of those people in person. But it's not always the case. I have I have friends from recovery who live all over the world. And it's kind of cool to hear different experiences. I actually got to meet a friend of mine who lives in Maine. I have friends in Georgia and California, like just all over. And these people are part of my life. They're not just my recovery people. Like, these are my friends. These are my family. These are the women who have built me up, who have helped me, who supported me, who have never, ever judged me. And that's a big deal for a codependent, for a love addict, to feel totally and completely accepted. There's nothing like that in the world. So I can always come to the rooms and just feel like all the love. I just feel all the love. And what more can a girl ask for?
A question.
Yes.
People had a couple questions. So how would someone identify if they are a love addict? I think that was actually the same. Yeah. How does a person know if they're in a love addiction? And then that was the same question. And then a third person wanted to know, or in general, are you open for people to reach out to you after the live?
So yes, definitely. Please message me. I love talking to people about this. I think it's super important. How does one identify as a love addict? So SLAA, the fellowship I belong to, Sex and Love Addicts Anonymous, actually has a 40-question questionnaire that sometimes helps people identify. Sometimes it doesn't. I've sent it to people and they saw the word sex and they were like, nope, not me. Goodbye. Thank you very much. And my suggestion is cross out the word sex. Just cross it out so you don't have to freak out. Replace it with unhealthy relationship. What's an unhealthy relationship? When a guy is verbally abusive to you and you still continue to date him. When a guy doesn't give you the time of day, he's, leaving you on the hook. However it manifests itself for you, replace whatever that constant repeated behavior is that's showing up in your life. Put that in place of sex and see if you identify. So the 40 questions is definitely, oh yeah, here we go. Yep. The 40 questions is definitely a great place to start. It's also recommended that you attend a couple of meetings. Try a meeting, go on a phone meeting, go on an online meeting, and see if you identify. And again, anytime I speak to people who call into meetings or who attend meetings, I always say, if you walk away identifying with even one person, go back to another meeting. Because there are going to be meetings where people are going to be talking about things that totally don't relate to you, and then one person's going to get on the phone and they're going to share something that so much resonates with you, it's worth it to go back. Because even if you don't end up identifying as an addict, which God willing, most of you won't, there's just something about connecting with people who want more out of life, who aren't satisfied with being chameleons, who aren't satisfied with just continuing on and living unhappy, unfulfilled lives. So check out a meeting. Again, there are super anonymous ways of doing that won't infringe on your life. And like phone meetings, I love them. I can call in from anywhere. I don't even have to share. I could be silent for the entire hour and walk away with so much. So that's my long-winded answer for that. Were there any other questions that I can answer?
That was it for those. And then
okay. Okay. I'm trying to think what else I can share on this topic.
I'm
okay.
curious to hear about your how you became you're like a life coach or something, or like
a coach, right? That's exactly what I was just going to speak about. Yeah.
I'm curious about that, how that's going for you, the kinds of people you work with.
Yeah. So, trying to think, when did I start my coaching program? Probably a year ago. So I probably had close to 3 years of recovery. Even before that. Okay. So I took a course for like personal growth and development because I just love those stuff. And they had us, one of the assignments was to create a community project that would affect like 20 to 200 people. And I'm like, I'm not the creative person here. Like, I'm the lawyer, I'm the books and computer person. I am not the artsy, creative, like save the world person. But for some reason, and this is like totally from God, I had this idea that I was going to reconstruct the orthodox dating scene. I was going to break the stigma around singles. I was going to create an environment where singles and married people can be on equal footing, where moms and matchmakers and community leaders would all like have greater sensitivity towards single. Like, I just had this vision of, I don't know. I knew I needed to target singles. I'm single. It's what I know. I like am so involved in working on healthy relationships. This is my calling. So I started this group on Facebook called Free to Be, which is where my Instagram handle comes from. And the purpose of it was to really empower and inspire singles to just like live their lives. You know, I'm a big believer in God runs the world, and God is the one who decides when we each meet our match. And so there's not much we can do to quicken that process. Like, if God says it's not your time, it's not your time. And so instead of just waiting around like to get married, like, let's live our lives. Let's enjoy life. Let's, I don't know, travel the world. Let's pick up a new hobby. Let's go back to school, whatever it is. And I really wanted to focus on that for myself and for other people. So I started this group, and then I became more active on Instagram, and it sort of like blew up into this thing that I never really imagined, where married women, divorced women, men, everyone was sort of just like, oh, hey, this is like a really cool life motto to just like live life in the present and like stop comparing ourselves to everyone else and sort of just like, you do you, I'll do me, and like we'll all get along. So that's pretty cool. But more importantly, my main focus really is on coaching singles through dating to really feel empowered in the choices that they make. Because again, I think that a lot of us feel compelled to say yes to certain dates, or feel pressure to continue dating, or to not ask so many questions. And what that does to us is, first of all, hate dating. We burn out. We generalize that all men are evil. And it's not conducive to really being open to finding our people. So instead, I try to focus on being able to choose for ourselves what feels good, to trust our gut, to be able to say no. Learning to say no is really, really tough as a codependent. Saying no is really scary because what are they going to think? And am I going to lose friends? And then no one's going to set me up again. And then I'm never going to get married. And it just like spirals into this whirlwind of disempowerment. And so when we can exercise our ability to say, no, this doesn't work for me, or this does work for me. This is what I like. This is what I don't like. This is something that's really important to me, and I don't want to have to compromise on that. It makes a world of a difference. So I speak to a lot of singles. I coach singles. I also hate using the word single, so as I'm saying it, I'm like apologizing. Like, I just want there to be a world where there's no differentiation based on marital status, that we're all human, we're all people. One of my biggest pet peeves is being called a single girl. Like, I'm 30 years old, I'm not a girl, I'm a woman. And so that's like another one of my pet projects to work on eradicating that. And I've written about that topic, and the pity stares and the sorry, I know my screen just went black for a second.
Okay.
Yeah, you can see me now. So yeah, that's really like where my heart is. Like, I work professionally as a lawyer, but my heart and soul is in the single community and empowering us through our dating. So yeah, I mean, I can rant all day about singles and all
that.
You
have
but
questions that are building up, so we can go
to
those.
Okay, let's do that.
Okay, so Rebecca from Project Proactive asked if you could talk about your upcoming column in Nashim magazine. I wonder why you're talking about Nashim magazine and what it's going to be about. So if you want to quickly talk about that, it's not like she's a double agent or anything. And then you had a couple people here. Yeah, a couple people just saying like, yeah, go you, go you, go you. Okay.
Thanks, people.
Nashim.
Okay. So yes, I am going to be writing a regular column in Nashim magazine, which is a magazine by women for women in the Orthodox Jewish community. So cool. It's one of a kind, amazing work that they do. And I've written a couple of articles for them, and I realized, like, why can't I just always write articles for them? I think it's such an important topic, and I'm really trying to expand this conversation to not just like my own Instagram account. I want women all over the world to be a part of this conversation. I mean, one of my greatest pleasures is when I married women who are like, go you. Like, yes, thank you so much for talking about this. And so I am going to be writing a regular column in Nashim magazine focused on struggles that single people in particular experience. I know like holiday time is super triggering because you see couples with their kids, and it's just like very family oriented, which is a beautiful thing. But it's also really tough on singles. So that's something that you can look forward to seeing. And I'm certainly open to suggestions. But I think just like married women and moms and divorced women and widows and all different types of women have support groups, I don't feel like there is a support group for single women. And that's really what I'm trying to cultivate here, because I'm all about support groups. I love support groups, love my recovery, I love, my therapy groups, all that. And I think there's a really big need in our community for a support group for singles. So that's what I'm trying to cultivate here. And so Nashim is just another avenue that I'm exploring to sort of just get the word out there. So there's that. I feel like I could talk about my single stuff all the time, but I really do want to talk a little bit more about recovery and codependency and love addiction, because being single has nothing to do with mental health. I mean, I should say nothing, but I do want to keep the focus on that. So I'm trying to think what else I can share about recovery. Well, I guess recovery as a frum woman is a topic that I've met other frum people in the rooms in my recovery journey. And what's really cool about that is, first of all, having people who get both like your religious affiliation and also the addiction part of things. Because when I first got into recovery, I felt very isolated. I felt like I had my recovery life and I had my frum life, and I wasn't able to reconcile the two. So I still felt like I was living a double life in a sense, like sort of how I was feeling when I was in my active addiction, where I was, dating guys that my parents didn't know about, that my friends didn't know about. I'd be canceling plans with friends to go meet up with guys. I'd be canceling on one guy to go meet up with another guy. Whoever was available, it was like, okay, like make that the priority. So I felt like I was still living that double life, and that's very hard because part of being an addict is this like compulsive lying that happens in a way. And so for me, part of my recovery is like, first of all, someone always knows where I am at all times. I am never somewhere where at least one person doesn't know where I am, both from a safety perspective and from a lying perspective. So that's really important to me. And lying in general is something that I've really tried to eradicate from my system. And I consider myself a pretty trustworthy person as a result of that. So I don't know how I got here. Yeah, the double life, right. So part of being an addict is living a double life. And I felt like when I first got into recovery, I was living this double life because I couldn't discuss recovery in like my religious community because like what does that mean you're a love addict? What does that mean like no one knows where you are and that like you're meeting up with guys that no one knows about? Like it's just unheard of. And that also, I'm like all over the place right now. I have like so many different thoughts.
We're fine.
So meeting other religious women in the rooms was everything. And these are women who I have been able to tell like my deepest, darkest secrets to. And even from a religious perspective, have gotten nothing but love and understanding and belonging. And again, like those things are super, super important. Like that sense of belonging. I can't talk about it enough. Like it really, it's everything. It really is. So the other thing I wanted to talk about was the concept of intimacy and how taboo it is in the Jewish community. And I do think, and it's a tricky topic, and I'm not trying to be a rabbi or to cover things that are outside of my realm of expertise, but I do think that there's a lot of shame in women exploring who they are like as females. And, because there's this concept of like not touching someone who's not a relative of yours and not touching someone you're dating before marriage, that there's a lot of like shame around like the female body. And so some people, women and men, will act out on that and will find themselves in the rooms. And so I bring this up because there are so many from people who struggle with intimacy, physical intimacy, both married and unmarried, with no real space to talk about it. So part of me coming on here tonight was also to like create a space to sort of talk about this. And it's something I talk about on my own page, but it's I'm struggling even now to talk about it because I want to be respectful of everyone, but I do think it's an important topic. So I'm gonna stop there. But anyone who wants to explore that topic a little bit more, please feel free to message me privately. I'm very open, just not when there's so many people watching me. Um, but I do think it's an important topic that needs to be addressed, and I will address it at some point. Yeah. So okay, pausing to breathe again. Were there any other questions, or everyone's sort of just like, okay?
Everyone's
Do you
like,
have
yeah,
any questions for me?
Someone said thanks for being so raw. That's what I've been thinking like nonstop this whole time. So I'm glad she said that out loud.
Thank you.
Okay, I don't have any questions. I feel like you've been covering a lot.
I
And
have.
people ask good questions. Yeah, I don't know. Did you want to cover? Was there more things you wanted to talk about, or are you kind of like coming to?
I think I'm kind of coming to the end.
Yeah.
I feel like I didn't go into so much detail on any one thing because I sort of just wanted to talk about a bunch of stuff related to this topic, but I'm happy to go into more detail. I just don't want to bore people.
Well, we have a question. We do have a question, so that
Ooh,
can
ooh.
lead us to questions. Okay, what would you say or advise to someone who has friends who try to set them up when they don't like dating, but people don't understand that concept?
Oh, baby.
That's the
I
first one.
have I have a really good response to that. Okay, go
So
on.
let's answer that question, and then we'll go to the next question because it's a
Okay.
good topic.
Yeah, so this is actually such a great question because one of the principles in recovery is when you first get into recovery, they recommend taking a year off from dating. Sort of like detox the system. And so I took a year and a half off from dating when I first got into recovery. And in the Jewish Orthodox community, that's like not heard of. Like, you're 25 years old, girl, you can't not be dating. Like a lot of people were freaking out. A lot of people were concerned. And I would get questions, of course, like when I wasn't dating, that's when all the matchmakers come out of the woodwork with suggestions, right? And so many times matchmakers would reach out to me with a suggestion, and I would say, thank you so much. I'm actually not dating right now. I will let you know when I'm ready. 2 weeks later, they would follow up again. Are you done with your break? No, I'm not done with my break, and I will let you know when I'm done with my break. And so I was met with a lot of adversity, a lot of pushback from people who didn't get that, like, I wasn't interested in dating. Like, what do you mean you're not interested in dating? So what I mean is, of course I was interested in dating. I just wasn't going to do that for myself because I really, really needed that time to completely detox. And let me tell you, it was the best thing I ever did. Like,
Did you travel?
I traveled. I got to know people. I made friends. I got to know my family all over again. I got to know myself. It literally, it just like rewired my everything. That being said, when I started dating again, I thought like, oh, the first guy I date, I'm going to marry. And then I'm like, that's a joke. And that's where the addict is still, trying to pop in. And she still does. God bless her soul. But yeah, so the question was, what do you say to people who are making suggestions, but you're not interested in dating? One of the greatest lessons I've learned in recovery is that the only person we can control and change is ourselves. So no matter how many times you tell people I'm not interested, they're going to keep hammering you. They're going to come back. They're going to think they know better. And you just nod and smile. Thank you so much. I'm busy right now. Thank you so much. I'm not interested. And they're going to still come back, and not everyone is going to respect you. And you just need to keep the focus on yourself. Not interested. And stay true to that. Like, if you're really not interested, don't date. You're not doing anyone favors by dating if you don't want to be dating. So that's my advice. Just keep the focus on yourself and let God do the rest.
The same person who asked the question has another comment, maybe in response, maybe just, but I don't know if you can see it from yours too, but I can read it. I'm 31 and don't like dating due to being abused and trust issues. I like control of my life and being a strong, independent female. Not a lot of relationships like that. I don't even want to marry.
Yeah.
To each their own.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You got to do what's right for you, and you're the only one who knows what's right for you. So, yeah, you do you, girl. That's what I got to say about that.
And someone commented also, you have to set boundaries, which is what I thought you were going to talk about.
Oh, well, I can go on a whole tangent on boundaries. Yeah. Yeah, but that's really what it comes down to.
Courses. Yeah. Okay. That's that topic. And then just back to addiction. So what do you wish the Jewish community would understand more about addiction? I like that question.
That's a great question. So much. So much. I would love, and it's not just the Jewish community. I think it's the world at large. I would love people to understand that, like, addiction is an illness. It's a disease, however you want to call it. And it shows up in so many different facets. So in particular, love addiction or sex addiction or codependency. Like, those are things that really plague us. And I think women in particular are more prone to be codependents and to be love addicts. And really my greatest wish, I actually had a dream about this the other night, is to create a curriculum for high school students to learn about what are healthy behaviors, what are unhealthy behaviors, how to really, like, there should be a course on, like, self-esteem and self-identification and self-love and self-growth and self-respect and all the self things. There needs to be a focus on the self, and it's not selfish. There's a difference. Taking care of yourself is not selfish. And I really, really wish there was more of an emphasis, particularly at a younger age, because by the time we're 19, 20, 21, we've already been programmed a certain way, and it's harder to change habits when you're an older person. Not that 19, 20, 21 is old, but I feel like if we can target it at a younger age, we'll have a better chance of seeing healthier relationships. We'll see less divorces. We'll see less people really struggling with self-esteem and mental health. And I really think it starts at a young age. And I'm not saying that 8-year-olds need to have a discussion on, like, red flags and boundaries and all those things, but it also comes from modeling those behaviors. It's showing children that this is not okay, or this is okay, this is acceptable, this is not how we treat people. Even, like, growing up, my mother was so into us saying please and thank you. And it's ingrained in me. When I go to stores and I say thank you to the cashier, or I say please, or people sometimes look at me like, thank you? Like, what did I do? And it just, I don't even think about it. And our teachers, like in preschool, our preschool teachers would always comment to my mother how, like, her children were so polite. And it's because she instilled in us at such a young age. So I think, again, not 8 years old, but I think there needs to be high school curriculum that really focuses on self-esteem. And yeah, someone actually reached out to me and said that Shalom Task Force has a course for professionals where they talk about identifying red flags. Like, I would love for them to bring that into the high schools. I think that's incredible. So that's, like, my next project, in all my free time. What I'm going to be doing is going into high schools and talking about these things. But
you quit your lawyer job.
Seriously. I'm like, I don't even have time to date anymore. It's like, I'm just, like, focused on, like, the community and, like, getting us to where we can be. So, yeah.
Great. You have another question.
Okay.
Should a love/behavior addiction be considered a red flag similar to substance addiction?
Awesome question. So I think everyone needs to decide that for themselves. Even now, I'll be very honest, very open. There are times where I feel like I would be better matched with a fellow addict, because a fellow addict in recovery, not an active addict, I should say, because I feel like there are certain spiritual principles that I live by and that I'm looking for in a partner. And I feel like that shows up in recovery. And at the same time, it's like an addict is always an addict and can relapse at any moment. And like, why would you risk that? So I think it's really important to really get to know a person. Also, addiction is not something that comes up on a first date. So if you've already developed a relationship with someone and they share with you 1, 2, 3 months in, whatever that timeline looks like, I think that's a discussion that you need to have with that potential person. You're not going to necessarily know the way that you would know about an alcoholic or a drug addict from date one, whether someone's a love addict or a codependent. I mean, there are certain things that you could pick up on if you're attuned to it, but I think that's something that you figure out as you go along. So it's not a black and white answer. It's not a yes or a no. I think it's just a matter of how long they've been in recovery. Someone who's in their active addiction is probably not someone you want to be with. Probably. But someone who's been in recovery for a substantial amount of time, whatever that means, some people say it's a year, some people say it's more than that, it's a conversation. So I would hate for someone to not want to date me because I'm in recovery, but I also understand and respect the fact that not everyone's going to want to date me if they have that information on me. And that's God's work. You know, like I truly believe that. So I think that was an answer to the question. I hope.
Sounded like an answer. Do you ever get nervous about sharing this kind of information? Like, do you feel it affects you with shit ups?
Totally. Totally.
You notice the difference?
Well, so it's not something that I come out on a first date and share.
Yeah.
It's something, so I need to feel comfortable with someone. I don't even share this with many of my girlfriends. Don't know this about me. I mean, maybe they do now, because I'm sharing.
Well, do they follow you on Instagram?
Surprise! But so again, something like this is not something I share right away. I have to feel comfortable with the person. I have to feel like there's a trusting relationship there. And then again, like, and it's something that my therapist always says, like, if you're in a trusting relationship, then the guy is not going to care. Like, and if he does care, he's not the guy for you. And I truly feel that way. I've been in relationships where I've disclosed it and it was like, okay. And, and I've been with guys who are like, whoa, I don't know what that interested. And, I think it also, there's so many misconceptions and generalizations that we make about addiction in general. And so people who aren't educated enough or who don't want to be informed on what the truth of the matter is can easily make decisions that are not based in what's actually true. So again, those are not people who I want in my life. They're not people I want to date. And thank God I have so many people who love and respect me for all of me that I'm not looking to collect more negativity. So, yeah.
Okay, well, someone loves your colored lipstick. That's Panina.
Thank you.
And then, Singer asked another couple questions, so we'll end with these. What about a friend who shows red flags? And then the other question was, it was a comment on something you were saying, so I don't know if we'll remember, but like they only feel validated if they're in a relationship, whether it's good or bad. I don't remember.
Okay, well.
And then there's one more question after that, and then we'll stop from there.
Okay, so in terms of red flags in friendships, red flags apply to any relationship, right? So I know plenty of love addicts who have never had like a romantic relationship. They have an addiction to like authority figures, which sounds kind of strange, but like it doesn't always play out in romantic relationships. So red flags are important to notice in any kind of relationship, with friends, with family, with a partner, a boss. I mean, I have boss stories for days. So It's really just important to know, like, what, at the end of the day, you know what feels good and what doesn't feel good. And so it's so important to stay in tune with your gut. I ignore my gut for some reason that only God knows. And there's so many times where I'm like, I knew it, and I ignored it. Don't ignore it. Really listen to it. And it takes practice. Yeah, red flags applies to all relationships to look out for.
Okay. And then last question. So how would you say it on a date?
I don't have like a formula for that. And again, I wouldn't even describe it as saying it on a date. It's more of like a conversation that I would have with someone that I'm in a relationship with. And I think part of that conversation comes up when you talk about prior relationships. So I've spoken about like relationship history and then sort of said like, oh, I found myself, repeating the same behaviors or attracting the same type of men, and it really wasn't making me feel good. And, it sort of just leads into itself. But yeah, there's no special formula for that, but I'm happy to speak with whoever had that question privately. If you have a specific situation, I can definitely help you, coach you through that for sure.
Someone had an interesting comment. So, RMG says, I feel like this is more confusing than other addictions where the thing is bad or dangerous itself, so the goal is not to have it at all, whereas here it sounds like you want to have love, just healthy.
100%.
And Rebecca added.
Yeah.
Agreed, it's like a food addiction. You can't avoid food altogether.
100%. So
great comments, guys.
Yeah, guys, thank you. These are so great because there's no two love addicts with the same addiction. Okay, so everyone defines their addiction differently. So I've gone to meetings where, someone will talk about, the fantasy side of things, or the, dating, the compulsively dating addicts, or like everyone's addiction looks differently. And the way that you measure your sobriety is very personal to you. So yes, you can avoid relationships, and we don't want to. The goal of recovery is to learn how to be in healthy relationships. It's avoiding the unhealthy aspects. And there are plenty of times, look, I've been in recovery for more than 3.5 years, and I've been on dates, I've been in relationships since I've been in recovery, and I've had unhealthy relationships, and I've had unhealthy behaviors in healthy relationships. It's super tricky, and it's not something I could do on my own. I have a sponsor in my recovery program. I have a therapist. I have coaches. I have people who I turn to. I don't do this alone. And some people might think like, oh, that sounds awful, like to always have like coaches in your life. But no, I think it's a blessing. Like, thank God I always have people to help me through. So getting help is not a bad thing. I know we're like running out of time, but I really just need to say that. Getting help is not a bad thing, folks.
We're all for that here on Project Proactive.
Yes.
That's what we stand for. Okay, so anything you want to like wrap up with? Any final comments? I don't know if we get cut off at exactly 1 hour. I think they might have changed that since the last time.
Oh,
I don't know, but okay, if we do, bye. But
yeah, it's been real. So yeah, just quickly, again, I want to reiterate, anyone who would like to reach out, please feel free to do that. Don't be afraid to get help. It's out there. It is not weakness, it is strength. Everyone who's commented, whoa, you're so brave, you're so raw, you're so great. I'm only able to do this because of recovery, nothing else. I mean, God, obviously, but without recovery, I would not be here talking to you all. So my strength comes from my seeking out help. And I'm not embarrassed to say that. I am grateful beyond words that I have this available to me and that it's available to everyone who needs it. So please, like, if you know someone, don't send them to recovery, because addicts don't like to be told that they're addicts. But just know that there is help available, and send them to me. I'm kidding. But no, seriously.
There you go.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's it.
Okay. No, great. That was really great. Thank you so much. Thanks for being on
Thank you
here.
for having me.
And for everything you were open to share. Yeah. Okay. Well, everybody who watched, thank you so much. Check out the stories afterwards, because I'm gonna be posting about something exciting that Project Practice is launching tonight. So
Ooh,
whatever, totally
awesome.
unrelated, but I just thought I would tell the
That's
15
okay.
of you who are still on.
For sure.
Anyway, Tzipora, you'll like it too.
Awesome.
All right, guys,
Thank you.
have a good night. Take care. Thank you
Good
again for coming
night.
on.
Thank you.